Hello, welcome back. We're out in the garden for the first time this season, and I am so excited about it. I really didn't get to go out in the garden at all last year and enjoy it. I did go out to do the bare minimum, but I was so dizzy and sick the entire garden season that I really didn't get to enjoy it. So, going out on this day to clean out the garden and kind of get us ready for the 2024 garden season was super exciting. I really enjoyed myself. It was the first warmish day in really since last year, and I know I'm wearing long sleeves and pants, but it was quite warm outside, very comfortable temperature. I do have both kitty cats out with me. The one on the screen there is Milo, and he's just watching me take out this tomatillo plant. Last year, the tomatillos, it looks like a bunch grew, but those were just the paper sacks. We didn't actually get very many tomatillos, maybe just a handful's worth. But realistically, I didn't get out into the garden to do any fertilizing or do really anything that needed to be done throughout the year. So on this day, as I was going around the yard, I noticed there's still quite a bit more work that I would like to do just to get the yard looking kind of back to my normal standard. Usually I pull weeds, 2 or 3 times throughout the year, 2 or 3 times, probably more like 10. But I didn't at all last year, and my husband did a few times, but there is just so much. You can tell that, it takes two of us to get all of the weeds kept up on. But it feels incredible to be out here. On this day, my main plan was to get all of the crops from last year taken out of here and put into the compost pile. You can kind of see it back in the far left-hand side of the screen. It's very small. We only have about 5 feet from our house to the fence, and that's the only area that I could put it. I did put together my garden plan for this year, and it'll probably change quite a bit by the time we actually get there, but I am very excited that it's official. I have put the garden plan into action. I'm getting ready to do my seeds in the next few days, and hopefully I will be able to keep the seeds alive. Last year was quite a success in that category, at least. So I started my seeds before I started feeling sick, and I was able to get specifically my tomatoes and my peppers to grow and to transplant outside, and that was probably my biggest success for transplanting. I am terrible at starting my seeds and having them live and then also being able to transplant them outside. I think that was probably my first big success, even though I try every single year. I think part of the problem for me is that I don't really have a place to keep my plants inside. I do have a little miniature greenhouse type of thing, and that's the only area that I have, and it kind of is hard to work with. It's got like a tarp over it, almost like a clear tarp, and it's really hard to keep the cats out of it. And so I always find that even just opening it to water them, the cats are in there. So sometimes I get a little bit off on watering them. I definitely know that I could be fertilizing more often, but I am hoping that this year we will have another successful day of transplanting starts into the garden. That would be fantastic. So I don't plan on growing quite as many things as I did last year. I'm kind of going to just go back to the basics. Last year I did a lot of trial and error things. I wanted to try a bunch of new foods, which was great. I did it, and that was all I needed. I decided that I didn't really like them so much, and some of them I liked, like beets I really liked, but I really don't like the whole staining thing, and so I decided not to grow any of these specialty items. And this year we'll just focus on specifically tomatillos is what I really want to grow a lot of, so we'll see if we can get those to grow. Now I'm working on my little perennial area. I have flowers in here usually. Last year I didn't even plant any extra flowers, but it still kind of went crazy with, I think, oregano. I think that's what was in there. I'm also debating on putting flowers in the little beds that you can't see, but they're over to the far left of the screen. It's not even on the screen, it's off screen. I'm thinking put a little bit more flowers there, maybe mix some flowers into the beds. What do you guys think? Should I mix flowers into my beds, or should I just keep them all separate? I haven't really done a whole lot of flowers at this house. My last house had a gorgeous bed in front of it. It didn't have that when I moved in. It had just an ugly bush, and then I took that bush out and I made a little flower bed, which was better than nothing. And then my husband, who wasn't my husband at the time, but he made me a gorgeous flower bed in the front yard, and I filled it with amazing flowers, and I really miss it. So I'm trying to figure out how can I bring that here. I know that I don't really have the room to do specifically what I did there, which was pretty with bricks and everything. And here the yard just doesn't seem to make sense for that. So I'm still working on exactly what I want to do, but I did buy quite a few flower seeds. So I'm wondering, should I try to start flowers indoors too this year? I usually just throw my flower seeds right on that area that I'm working on right there, and then they grow like crazy. They're fantastic. They always do very well for me. So I'm still deciding which way I want to do that, and it'll be an interesting year. I'm really hoping that this year I will have a lot of time to go outside and really enjoy the garden. You can see my chair over to the very far right. You can barely see it. And on a typical year, I will be out there multiple days, just sitting there, swinging, sitting in the sun in the afternoon. I absolutely love it. It's one of my most favorite things. And I mean, I definitely slowed down doing that a bit once we got the kitten, because when we would bring him outside, we would need to have him on a leash. And now if I bring the cats outside, I'll have two of them, which I kind of have to have my eyes going both directions at once, it seems. So it's a little harder to sit on the chair and just relax. And if I go without them, then they're just looking at the window and they make me feel guilty. So I'm just hoping though, even if I have the cats with me and I have to keep my eyes peeled, which that's what I'm doing right there, is looking for the cats, then I'll be able to just relax and then hopefully get out there quite a bit, pull all the weeds, make the yard look fantastic. I also have two trees in my backyard that are newish. I had three different trees installed. I planted three trees. Let's try that again. A few years ago, and most of them died. One of them I thought died, but it ended up having a sucker, and so we kept the sucker, and so we're going to see if that'll form a tree. And then we also have a new plum tree, and so I need to get those fertilized, and I need to see if it comes back. That would be amazing. Last year, our pear tree, which is the only tree in the backyard, it wasn't the only one we planted at the time, but it was the only one that lived. It was the first year that it really produced. It had produced a couple of pears here and there, but last year it produced probably like 12 pears, and they were tiny, but that was the best that it's done so far. So I am interested to see if we get any pears this year. It seems to kind of be an every other year type of deal, and so I wouldn't be surprised if we get none, but I would love to get a bunch of pears again this year. And I also need to get out and I need to prune my hibiscus and I need to prune my grapes. Last year, I got out and pruned my grapes before I started feeling bad, and I think I pruned them too much. I really followed the directions, and I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, but I didn't get very many grapes compared to the year prior, and a lot of the areas didn't grow grapes at all. So I need to be really careful this year with what I prune, and I'll probably be doing that towards the end of April. I want to do it right kind of at the end of the really snowy season. I mean, we can still have snow here until, gosh, we've had snow in June before. But I want to just make sure that I get those pruned and hopefully we can have some grapes. Now, I have something interesting with the grapes. With the grapes, I always end up having a ton of wasps once they, can you guys hear the cat meowing? Once the grapes start to, plump up and get really sweet. And there's like wasp nests almost that form. Maybe not nests, but they have like their little silky spinny stuff. And how do I avoid that? Because I would really like to be able to go and get the grapes off without being terrified of the wasps, and also without having the wasps first eat the grapes. They like stick their nose in and suck out the juice from the grapes or something like that. I don't have any idea, but that's what it appears is happening because the grapes get all shrunken up. So I want a solution for that. So if you have any suggestions, please leave them down below. I definitely could use some help on that. This year I'm also doing something a little bit differently with my starts. I usually just buy a regular old soil mix that's for vegetables, and I use that to do my starts. And this year I decided to buy a different compost mix, and so I'm really hoping that that different compost mix will help. It has a lot of great reviews from a bunch of people all over YouTube, and so once I do those starts, I will show you my plan and hopefully everything will work out well. I also just learned that in order to not have those little gnat bug things, you should boil water and put it on your soil before planting, and of course let the soil completely cool down before you use it. I had no idea because I always get those in my house and it gets to be so annoying. And if you were around with me last year, at the end of the year, I brought my Thai basil inside and I kept that alive until probably the end of December, middle of January, somewhere around there. And it was still alive, but I was getting so sick of all the little bugs, which I did bring that from outside. But even when I start my seeds inside, I get all those little bugs that just look like gnats. So I'm going to try the boiling the water method to see if that helps with that situation. And if it does, I will be very excited about it. And then I'm also going to be making sure to fertilize my plants, which I did quite a bit of last year, but I just want to make sure that I'm keeping up on that. I'm really hopeful for this year's garden, and I'm laughing at little Milo. Did you see him over there? He was so cute. Um, the corn last year, this didn't even work. We had not very good luck with corn, but taking those out. We're trying again this year. The area right behind me is where I have my perennial items, so I'm hoping that some things come back. I have some asparagus there, which hopefully will come back, and then I also have artichoke, which would be very fantastic. I had one little artichoke one time, and that was before I put this bed in. It was actually right there still, but I had to put the bed in, so I had to take the artichoke out, and it didn't live. So that would be super neat if we got artichokes. So I'm just about done here with getting the yard completely, at least picked up from last year. I still need to go through and remove all the extra grass from the rocks. And I did go ahead and move those cinder blocks. Those aren't cinder blocks. I don't know. Those concrete blocks that are there. I moved them. I'd been wanting to do that for over a year and I finally did it. And so I'm very excited. But that's all for today's garden cleanup. I look forward to gardening with you this season.